So you are presumed to be the next Egyptian president, and you have the ideology of tolerance and equality. And the biggest party in Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood, is having its belief in Islamic fundamentalism. Do you think how will these things go together?
Well, I'm not sure that the Muslim Brotherhood you can describe them as fundamentalist. They are religiously conservative group, that's for sure. They are the one. Some of them say that a president should be a man and a Muslim and not a woman or a Copt, which obviously is not shared by the majority of the Egyptian, and hopefully the constitution will put some of that stuff to rest. But they never used violence. They commit themselves that they would live under a constitution that protect a civil state, that they will agree with the majority of the Egyptian on a civil state. And they are around 15–20% of the Egyptians. The Mubarak regime continued to say that they are banned. I mean, you cannot ban 20% of the Egyptian from being part of the political process. I have been saying all the time that they have to be integrated. When you are integrated as part of the political process, lots of things change in your own views. It is different when you are an outsider than from you are an insider. However, they have to play by the rules. They have to play by a constitution that protect, as I said, the same rights and same obligation of everybody. And they say they are ready to do that. They will be put to the test. But I think a socially cohesive Egypt, where everybody is participating, is a more moderate and modern country as you look to the future.
My name is Ira Trivedi and I'm a writer. Do you see women playing a more substantial role in shaping post-revolution Egypt than they traditionally have done so in that part of the world?
If I got you correctly, you said, did women play a
Do you
strong...
see women playing a more substantial role?
In the future of Egypt?
Yes, in shaping post-revolution Egypt.
Post-revolution.
Very much so. I mean, lots of the young people who have been working, for that revolution, a good percentage are women. I don't see any group of young people without having at least quite a few women among them. Women, in fact, were more courageous in many situations. They were at the forefront of many of the demonstrations. They are doing a fantastic job. I'm talking about the young people. They're being liberated. And I think we will not have the Second Republic I'm talking about, without the women playing as important, if not more important, role than men.
Perhaps you could explain what the First Republic was.
Well, the First Republic, if you call it, I use the analogy with the French, when they have now the Fifth Republic. I use the analogy that Mubarak and his, predecessor were the First Republic, and if you call them a republic.
Jamal Nasser.
Yeah, and Sadat, but they all have different style of government. They all had one thing in common. It was always a repression system of governance. And when I talk about the Second Republic, is talking about a democratic Egypt.
You've removed Hosni Mubarak. Have you removed the army?
Well, the army hopefully does not want to play politics. They want to say, and they are saying that we want to stay only for 6 months as a transition, and that's frankly part of our problem. I've been saying, well, if you want to, they say we want to go back to our barracks, we have our job cut for us. I said that's fine, but then, transfer power to a civilian presidential council, but don't cut short the transitional period, because cutting the transitional period short will not take us to where we want to go.
Elbaradei, my name is Bobby Seigel. In fact, my question is leading on from what Mr. Akbar just asked you. This is the first time in the Arab world that we're seeing a movement which is not anti-West or anti-US. However, was the success of the quick success of your revolution largely or in some great part due to the neutrality of the Egyptian army, as opposed to Libya, where the Libyan army is very pro-regime?
Yes, I think so. We had the ones who were really playing a lethal role against the revolution was the state security system, the MI5, if you like, the internal security system. The army has been neutral. As I have come now to understand, many of them many of the leaders are quite happy to see Mubarak gone. They knew about a lot of the corruptions, but they were not part of the political process. So, but they were completely neutral, and we were lucky for that. They are the one who told Mubarak the last day, you have no option but to go.
A lot of people have commented that during the time that perhaps Nelson Mandela was a circumstantial hero, a coincidental hero of circumstance. Do you think that the same perhaps could be said about you, considering a lot of people think that you are an outsider who has come in now?
I would decline that comment. I can say I participated in a revolution that has been triggered by the young people and supported by every Egyptian, including myself.
My name is Pawan Malhotra. Congrats for a peaceful revolution fueled by a nuclear expert like you. In hindsight, did Hosni Mubarak have any role to play in Anwar Sadat's assassination?
Well, I'm not a believer of conspiracy theory, so I don't think so, no.
At the back, please.
But now we are a democracy, you will find out anyway.
So, my question is addressed to you both as a foremost philosopher of nuclear energy, as also a shaper of mankind. I mean, my generation sees you as a new Einstein. That's why I ask you this question. So, what do you think, in the context of countries like India, is the future of the thorium cycle, of which we have plenty? Which way do we go from here? And the second question which I ask you in the context of the present crisis, which is just happening in Japan, you know that light water reactors with single cycle cleaning systems were possibly the cause of tragedy that happened. We do have, like my friend Manoj Joshi mentioned earlier in the evening, newer technologies which can replace, these are molten metal technologies. Sir, we need your guidance on these issues, and I wish if you could elaborate in presence of possibly the most august audience in India present here tonight. Thank you, sir.
But because I have the most august audience in India, I will decline to comment on that. Other than to tell you, at the end of the day, I'm a lawyer, so I will not really give you a definitive answer. I can tell you on the thorium that, of course, people in Mumbai and the Atomic Energy Commission are very optimistic about the thorium fuel cycle. And if you have a lot of thorium, you do not have to depend on import of uranium. So there is a lot of work going on, and I think it's work in the right direction. I mean, that's you make use of your domestic supply of raw material. On the light water reactor, and you have to have, as I said, you have to have a complete overhaul. I mean, I should mention also that review of safety should not be limited to civilian power reactors.
Yes.
It should also include military reactors. They are off limit everywhere in the 9 weapon states. And if you have an accident, it doesn't make a difference whether it's a civil or a military reactor. And we should find a way to have a peer review of all reactors, whether it's civilian or power or military reactors.
At the peer review, would you recommend that Dr. Manmohan Singh call a peer review of, say, 15, 20 nations?
I would think so. I would recommend that.
Egypt is being seen as a role model for revolutions that are bringing about change in the Middle East. And I was wondering, why isn't Egypt sending any troops to Libya to help them with their liberation movement, even if it's small and it's symbolic?
It's a good question. However, again, I wear my hat as a lawyer. You probably can send that through authorization by the Security Council. You do not want to send troops unilaterally. I mean, you do not want to repeat Mr. Bush, adventure into Iraq. There are rules of going into different countries. I still believe that Security Council should authorize, countries to send troops to Libya as part of the responsibility to protect, call it peacekeeping, call it whatever, but we need to protect civilians. And it's not just Egypt. I mean, again, I do not subscribe to the issue because it's your neighbor, you have your security interests at stake. Our security, look, for example, at Afghanistan. Everybody and his brother is in Afghanistan because the West believe that Afghanistan directly impact on their national security. But you haven't seen one single Westerner in Darfur, for example, or in Congo, because they don't want their kids to die there. So the question is, do you want a global security system based on Eurocentric or direct national security interests, or based on human solidarity, as I would subscribe to? And if it is based on human solidarity, that every one of us is responsible for what's happening in Libya, in Yemen, anywhere when innocent civilians are being slaughtered for yearning for freedom.
GK's just sent a note. He wanted to ask a question.
Oh, thank you very much, MJ. Sir, congratulations to you and welcome to India. And I must say you're a star of this evening. It's a peaceful revolution, even though you lost 400 people. Our condolences go to those who lost their life. My question to you is based on our learning in our days of our school days. We knew Nile, we knew Suez Canal, we knew Pyramid, we knew mummies, and we knew Omar Sharif. So my congratulations go to the entire Egyptian people, and I hope that they achieve what they have set themselves to do. My question to you is limited to the US involvement in two parts of that part of the world. Egypt got its independence in 10 days. It managed to get Hosni Mubarak out. Whereas Libya did exactly the reverse. Do you believe that Libya's change in what happened in Libya would affect Egypt's chances of staying where it is?
I don't think so. I think the power in Libya right now, Libya has always looked at Egypt as a model, and I think that, see, the problem that we don't really have a functional global security system, and you have a Security Council that in many cases is impotent to deal with security threats. And your definition with security is sometimes very blinkered, and if it doesn't impact you directly, you can continue to make statements and issue resolutions. And today I was told they issued a no-fly zone, for example, which is a good first step, but that you need to act more. And as I said, you need to probably have troops to go to Libya and ensure that the Libyans who are peacefully calling for their freedom will get their freedom. You can't talk about human dignity, you can't talk about universal values while you do not walk the walk. You have to walk the walk. If we as an international community, global community as we call ourselves right now, are not doing the walk and just issue empty threats or rhetoric.
A question, I wish you knew cricket, but I don't think they play cricket in Egypt. But one of my great,
I know baseball from my
one of my great heroes is here, actually. A man who combined languid grace with enormous ferocity on the field, Clive Lloyd, former captain of the... And Clive wants to ask a question. I'm delighted.
Thank you, sir. If I'm looking for an agent, you've got the job. First, I'd like to say that we are now in this region where they have the ICC World Cup. And I'm an old and decrepit cricketer. But we have a game against India coming up shortly, and which is a very important game. And if the West Indies do win, I might lose a few friends. But probably that's only for a short while. But I just wondered, seeing that South Africa, sport brought stability to South Africa, I just wondered how important is sport in your country for the future?
Well, I think sport in Egypt was too important, and in fact, it was a distraction from people getting engaged in politics, and it became even, tinged with chauvinism, and jingoism, if you like. And sport is important in terms of the values that come with sport. And it is quite important, particularly football, soccer in Egypt. But that should not, detract people from other basic values that we need to work on. And you need to continue to encourage sport, but you need also to continue to encourage people to get engaged into the political process, into social justice, into human solidarity. We live in a very complex life, and you should not channel all people's emotions into the sport. I am a sport fan. I am a basketball fan, but it's, I need also to balance my interests and where to challenge my emotions. So I can assure you there's enough support for sport in Egypt, but what we need now is to get some of this energy into the building the society.
I think we take a pause here for at least one or two great internet questions, questions that have come in from the internet. One is from Nripinder Chaudhary in Guwahati. It's to the eastern part of our country in Assam. How is the international community prepared to act if nuclear weapons fall into the hands of terrorists in Pakistan?
I think the problem is not only in Pakistan, anywhere where you have nuclear weapons. So I need to, it's a question that's universal, that as long what we have seen, some of the extremist groups, sophistication they have, interest in acquiring nuclear weapons, this is now the most important security threat the world is facing. Because if an extremist group was to have nuclear weapons, they will use it. The so-called concept of deterrence does not apply to their ideology, and that's why, we are in a race against time, in fact, to protect all the nuclear material, all the radioactive sources, to make sure that it will not fall into the wrong hand. The solution to that is that we get rid of nuclear weapons, pure and simple. That's my ultimate guarantee. But as long as you have 23,000 nuclear warheads in the world, the odds that sometime one will get stolen or developed somewhere in a remote corner of the world is still a nightmare that continues to haunt all of us.
How easy is it to make a dirty bomb?
Dirty bomb is very easy, because dirty bomb, all you need is a powerful radioactive source and then a conventional explosion. In fact, a lot of the people are wondering how come until now we didn't have a dirty bomb exploded somewhere. Dirty bomb is not a nuclear weapon, but it's still, will have thousands of people dying, huge, economic dislocation, radioactivity. So it would terrorize, and that's why it's a weapon of choice for terrorists. And that's what I keep saying. It is much easier, and that's why we need also to do as much as we can, as fast as we can, to protect all the powerful radioactive sources. We have been working on that since 9/11, and we've done a lot, but still a lot to be done.
Hi, my name is Vikram. I'm from Bombay. I'm a global investor. I manage a global fund. What I want to understand is what kind of judiciary are you going to create? Because we know democracy is going to be very fragile in the next couple of years or so. And we've seen, even in Sri Lanka, they won the war, and now the president is basically doing whatever he wants to ensure him to keep power. We saw the same thing in Pakistan. How are you going to protect your democracy? And how are you going to ensure that your judiciary remains strong and independent? And what are you going to do about the constitution? I'm asking this as a potential investor in Egypt.
Well, I think that's why I put a lot of premium on the constitution. It has to be a constitution that guarantees absolute independence for the judiciary. The judiciary is key, in many aspects, particularly protecting the minorities, particularly protecting, the country against usurpation of power by the executive branch. And the good news, at least, we have a good tradition of a judiciary system in Egypt. It has been somewhat undermined by the Mubarak regime, but I think it would not be difficult to build, again, a very independent, very robust judicial system.
Hello, sir. My name is Hamdullah Saeed. I am a member of parliament. I want to know from you that now since the military in Egypt is the custodian of government and till the elections take place, the military is the custodian. So do you feel that after 6 months, the military is going to step back to give the newly elected democratic government the opportunity to rule, or still the military is going to continue its rule? That is my question to you. And secondly, what about the constitution? The same constitution which was abrogated by Hosni Mubarak will be implemented, or you are going to frame a new constitution?
On the military, I don't think that they are interested to stay in power. I mean, they are, in fact, would like to leave power as soon as possible. And that's part of the problem we are having, that they are trying to cut short the transitional period. And my answer to them, you can go back, but transfer power to a presidential council, you know, as happened, for example, in Slovenia and other places, while we go through the transition.
Hello, sir. I'm Bitika from JP Business School, Noida. My question to you, sir, is there have been reports from IAEA that chastising Egypt for not disclosing a number of atomic research activities over the past years. Why is it that Egypt has never come clean about the full scope of its nuclear activities and experiments? Thank you.
I didn't. You think Egypt has not disclosed its activities fully, or?
Yeah, the IAEA reports of 2005 says that Egypt is not disclosing the full scope of its nuclear experimentations.
Yeah, no, I got that. I mean, Egypt did not have really a proper, again, as part of the mess we had, it didn't have a proper agency for accounting and control of nuclear material. As a result of that, there was a lot of administrative lack of reporting, of experiments, a small quantity of nuclear material. But all this, I think, has been, as you mentioned, has been now corrected, or it's on its way to be corrected. It was not related to any military program, or it was just a messy practice and lack of administrative discipline. We need him back in Egypt, yeah?
Chief Election Commissioner. Excellency, I think we should all recognize the fact that very soon you would be addressed worldwide as Your Excellency. So I'll begin here in India by calling you that. Also informing Your Excellency that 2 years ago, a 6-member delegation of your election commission came to India. We interacted closely. My question to you is, and you must have thought about this because you have a huge burden on your shoulders, what are your proposals for electoral reform?
I think the first proposal is for you to come to Cairo and help us. But seriously, we need a lot to ensure that we have a free and fair election. To start with, we need an independent electoral commission, that's completely independent. I have the model in France where the Constitutional Court, I'm sure you know, is the one in charge of the election. We need international observers. We need civil society to be, again, part of the observation. We need judicial supervision of the ballot boxes. We need to make sure that we vote with the ID cards and not with a special, election piece of paper which is easily manipulated. Lots of people lots of dead people used to vote during Mubarak time, and we need an ID card. We need to make sure that the 6-7 million Egyptians who live abroad have the right to participate in the election. Right now they don't, and I think in India they do participate now, I hope. But in most countries they vote at the embassies and the consulate. So there is a long list of electoral changes that we need to introduce to basically make sure that the election is free and fair and is not, and that the field is a level one.
Hi, sir. So just wanted to ask, you mentioned earlier on around the role that the internet played in terms of mobilizing people. And looking back, around the 27th of January, there was a complete shutdown of the internet by the authorities, who obviously recognized the power that it was having. Do you think without the internet, there would have been a revolution at this time?
No. The answer is no. I mean,
yeah.
the revolution is the brainchild of the internet.
Okay. And second, sorry, just following that, what do you think now other oppressive regimes around the world will learn from this?
They will shut the internet.